If you're in the top 25% of BDOs at your shop, I view that as you being a successful BDO. You've made it to the top of your shop. That said, every shop has its limitations. Now the question becomes, can you reach new heights at a new shop? So in this episode, I'm going to share my rules of the road for top tier BDOs considering making a move. Now, before I get into this one, I wanted to address the BDOs that represent the bottom 75% of BDOs at their shops, particularly the ones that expected to be doing better. I bet you every one of them can tell you exactly why they are not producing. Maybe it's the bank not wanting to lend in certain areas when they say they're a national lender, but they really only want to lend where they're headquartered. And that particular BDO might be out of that market. Could be credit box is too tight, or the classic, our process sucks, whatever. Now keep that in mind for a sec, because we're going to come back to it. Now, if you didn't ask enough questions up front before you took that job to understand the credit box and the process and things like that, that's on you, right? Unless it's like some sort of fundamental change within the organization. That happens sometimes. Like when BBVA merged with PNC, and then I saw a bunch of BBVA people went over to Live Oak because they couldn't get their deals done anymore, right? So there's nothing you can do about that. But outside of that, my advice is to not make a move from a position of weakness. So if you're one of those BDOs in the bottom 75% and you are not producing because of whatever reason, and the inclination is to jump ship, I'm saying don't do that, right? Because a lot of BDOs get stuck in this cycle. They don't put up great numbers and they switch shops to another mediocre shop, and then they just end up bouncing around every 2 or 3 years. What's the way out of that, right? Like the way out of that is to produce. Now, easier said than done, right? I know the conditions might not be ideal, but someone has to be the top producer. Why not you? If you're the top producer at your shop, even if that means just doing 8 million, you're in a much better position to upgrade your status and get to a shop that is much better. And therefore, they're going to be more selective with who they hire. That's why you have to first prove yourself at your current shop and become the top producer or in the top 25%, even if that means just doing 8 million. The shops that everyone wants to work at with the wide open credit boxes and the awesome comp plans, they aren't going to just hire the $7 million BDO that's ranked number 5 out of 8 at their shop. They're just not. Make a plan, okay? It's not going to be easy. Maybe it means making 100 calls a day like I did when I was starting out, but you've got to finish up there at the top. Then you can jump ship and actually move your career forward. Get to that 20, 25, 30, $35 million range and beyond. And how do you do that? You find the right shop. And that requires an extensive interview process on both sides. Okay, so without further ado, here are 10 things you need to figure out about a prospective shop before you take the job. Number one, what's the top BDO doing? If they're doing, let's say, 25 million, then I know I could do at least 25 million. Every shop has a ceiling. When I came to Fundex, there was 3 BDOs, all of which were producing. 2 were north of 20 million, and I had never even done 20 million up until that point. So to me, that was the best indicator that I knew that there was a path there for me to be successful. Number 2, what is their value proposition? Is it speed? Is it credit box? Is it certainty of close? Is it structuring? These are all fine value propositions, but the one thing that I would avoid is rate. If the marketplace starts knowing you for having the best rate, aka you're the cheapest, and that's what folks that are doing business with you think about you, it makes you less marketable as a BDO. Number 3, how are they staffed? What is the ratio of underwriters to BDOs? By the way, 2 to 1 is max, I think. How many deals do each of the closers have on their desk? How many deals are in underwriting right now? Get a sense of whether they even have the capacity to add more BDOs, because a lot of them don't. A lot of them just want to hire sales and then add support later, which usually ends up with deals bottlenecking as they scramble to hire more support in an insanely tight job market in our industry. So also, do they have BDAs? BDAs are like sales assistants. Most top producing BDOs tend to have help, right? You can't do it alone. And this is a huge added plus if they provide BDOs with support to scale, because that is how you get to 35, 55, 75 million, you need help. Sometimes they only give it to the top producing BDOs and you have to earn it first. That's perfectly fine. Next on the list, will they give you space to market yourself? I know a lot of BDOs that are handcuffed when it comes to posting on social media, and that includes LinkedIn. Newsflash, folks are finding us on social, or they're finding the brokers on social, and we're finding the broker on social. But the point is, social media sites like LinkedIn are the new standard for business development. If the bank doesn't allow you to post, that's like the equivalent of telling someone they can't go to a chamber meeting in 1995. Like, what? What types of deals are they doing? That's the next question on the list. Pretty much every top producing BDO I know focuses on two things: real estate and business acquisition. That's where the vast majority of SBA 7A dollars go. So that's where you'll want to go. So if their pipeline is flooded with those types of deals, then we know there's a way to get them. And if not, well, another thing to find out is their average loan size. You're going to want it to be $750K or higher. And keep in mind, if they have a separate division doing small loans, it might skew the numbers. So be sure to ask for the number based on the BDO channel of business only. Next up, comp plan. Obviously, you have to ask about comp plan. If you are that top 25% BDO, but at your shop, that means under 25 million, your primary goal should be getting to 30 million. I'd rather get to 30 million with an average comp plan than look for the best possible comp plan, and the top BDO there is only doing 17 million. I'd want to go to where I know I'm going to blow it out of the water, because my perceived value as a BDO will skyrocket after a couple of years doing 30 plus million. Virtually all doors at that point will be unlocked. So think long. I saved the most important for lucky number 7. As a BDO, all you have is your word and your reputation. You do what you say you're going to do. That means minimal declines in credit and no bait and switches. Now, part of this is on you. You've got to do the work up front to minimize those sort of things. But part of it's on the shop. So you got to ask, how many declines have you had in the last year? And I'm talking about submitting a full credit package to underwriting. How many of those were declined? And were any of the deals restructured past that point to get to an approval, i.e. a potential bait and switch? If they're the type of shop that lets you put out a proposal and then says, we'll deal with that later, and then declines or restructures the deal after 6 weeks of messing around, that hammers away at your reputation as a BDO. I would run the other way. Number 8, broker fees. Everyone has their hand out these days. Be ready to pay a point, maybe a point and a half for real estate deals. But more than that, you're basically just buying business, and you become less valuable as a BDO. You think a shop wants to pay you 2 points and then pay your brokers 2 points for the pleasure of hiring you? Think about where premiums are today. This is not a sustainable model. Number 9, geographic restrictions and geographical preferences. If you're a national BDO, there are national shops and then there are national shops. Find out if the shop has a preference on lending in the backyard, because ideally they have no preference whatsoever. It's really hard to treat different deals based on where they're at, one state versus another, because it confuses the marketplace. If you want to be a regional or local, stay regional or local. But shops that say they are national just to cherry pick strong deals in the faraway states end up doing harm to the BDO and their relationships, especially if you're the type of BDO that lends locally. Because if you're not in that market that bank's targeting, then it's like 10 times worse. So do not fall into that trap. Number 10, perhaps the most important, will they do your deals? Credit culture, credit philosophy, this can vary tremendously from shop to shop. I would personally go through every last deal that you closed in the last 12 months and explain to the chief credit officer, what was the hair on that deal? Why did it make sense? And then ask, would you do it? I did that when I came to Fundex, and there was like 90% overlap, so I know that it was a decent fit for me. The last thing you want to do is start at a shop assuming they think like your previous bank or like you, and then they don't do any of your deals and you get frustrated. Now, if that happens, it's on you just as much as it's on them, if not more, because you should have asked those questions up front. Now, let's say you're pivoting away from the types of deals that you've been doing and you're drawn to this shop that you want to go to because they're doing the types of deals you want to be doing. That's fine, but then the bank is taking a risk on you, because while you have a proven track record of success, right? You're top 25% at your shop. you're now going to have to start from scratch with this new source of business or these new sources of business that can deliver to you those types of deals that you want to do. For the most part, maybe not, maybe some of them are trying to send you deals and you just can't get them done. But for the most part, you're not closing deals with those folks. So there is some risk to that. And the ramp up might take a little bit longer. Okay. So just know that going in. So that's it. But remember, if you ask those questions and you get good answers, that's just the starting point. I would then ask for their written guidelines, talk to other BDOs at the shop and other folks on the management team, and I would ask the chief credit officer really specific questions about post-closing liquidity requirements, unsecured exposure, advance rates, discount rates, and all the other nitty-gritty details that you're ultimately going to need to know to be successful at that shop. And doing it during the interview process allows you to hit the ground running when you come on board. All right, that's it for this week. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode of The Art of SBA Lending. And if you have any feedback or suggestions, email me at ray@artofsba.com. Until next time, ta-ta.